I've, from the start, thought that there is an issue of consumer protection because I do believe that when people buy a home, they're not always understanding what it means to have a failed sewer lateral or that problem. And I think this is what Councilmember Braunstein said originally, and I'm still kind of at that place where I think a disclosure is a good thing because it brings it up to the attention. I have not been in favor of requiring inspection, and after watching the numbers, I'm even more against that kind of expectation requirement. I do think the disclosure is a good thing, and I think the fact that Sam Carr went ahead and drafted one, and I read it this afternoon, and whether we use that one or some variant of that, I think that's well within what's possible. And I guess through the chair, what I'd like to suggest is, you know, whatever we do here tonight, we're moving towards doing something more aggressive than we do today. So I mean, for me personally, I like the idea of taking this incremental step. If we decide that a year from now that whatever we did wasn't enough, there's nothing that prevents us from getting more aggressive. And in fact, a year from now, we'll have a much better picture of what wasn't working and why and all that. So whatever we do tonight is more aggressive than what we've got in place, and that's a step in the right direction. And all right, the other thing I wanted to report on is the Silicon Valley Clean Water, the SVCW. We had our meeting a couple of weeks ago. We are having a special meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to discuss the budget of the next year's budget of the SVCW, so just wanted to give you a heads up there. We went through a few things, and Afshin, if you hear me say anything that's not quite right, please jump to the microphone and correct me. We did get a report that the flow equalization facility negotiations are ongoing. Just as a reminder, when we I know we haven't had much in the way of hard rains this year, but when it does rain, we have a lot of intrusion. And in fact, the flow equalization facility essentially are ponds in West Bay Sanitary District in Menlo Park, I believe, where the excess wastewater, where it can't get transported and treated on a real-time basis, so to speak, they have to divert some to these ponds. They have to divert some of the flow to these ponds. And we really have been using those for many years without paying West Bay for that usage. And so I would say probably a year ago or so, this started coming up where now we're beginning to negotiate. So I understand that they may have proposed terms for us to discuss in April. So stay tuned. It may turn out to be a fairly expensive option that we're going to be discussing and deciding whether we want to use that or find some other way of trying to handle excess flow in rainy weather.